Growing up, by far, my favorite book was Holes by Louis Stapler. Now, as a quick synopsis, Stanley Yelnats is a troubled teenager sent to a camp called Camp Green Lake, where he's forced to dig holes for hours upon hours while being deprived of food, sleep, and water. Now, a few weeks ago, as I went to my local school to check out the book again, I instinctively went to the fantasy section. Well, I was pretty shocked to find the book was nowhere to be found there, but was instead in the realistic fiction section. I mean, you can't blame me. A camp that literally abuses children sounds fantastical, right? Well, as I've done more research, I realized the book's placement was perfectly suitable, because these programs are the reality for the 200,000 children sent into the troubled teenager industry every single year. Also known by its acronym TTI, the troubled teenager industry is defined by BBC News as the wide scope of private programs aimed to modify teenage behavior, and claims to combat issues like misbehavior, addiction, and mental issues. However, recently there's been an increasing amount of controversy around the industry, as the U.S. Accountability Office has found thousands of allegations of abuse within the industry, with over 315 children dying in these programs. With America's growing mental health crisis, more and more parents are seeking a solution. Thus, it becomes imperative that we take a look at the ethicality of the industry, and whether it's truly a form of rehabilitation, or instead what the St. Louis Law School coins as an institutionalized child abuse. First, let's start by imagining you are a normal teenager with normal teenager struggles. You might be getting bullied at school, which causes you to get into a few fights. You might be having mental health issues, so you lash out at your parents. Or you might be dealing with sexual problems, or be dealing with addiction. Normal teenager problems that can easily be solved with counseling, or in more severe cases, prescribed medication. But the troubled teenager industry wants your money. From the Seton Hall Law School, the industry fear-mongers parents in believing that their children's behavior needs intervention, when in reality, displaying nude swings, sexual desires, or rudeness are part of teenhood. These programs simply misconstrue these characteristics and diagnose the cause of them as being a troubled teen, with the only cure being these facilities. Next, once you're enrolled in the program, which by the way costs $500 to $1,400 per day, you'll be sent to a facility by means of kidnapping. You'll be woken up in the middle of the night by complete strangers, restrained with handcuffs or blindfolds, and put in a car for transportation, which can last from a few hours to multiple days. All this time, you think you're gonna die and call out to your parents for help, not realizing that they're the ones who planned this. Once you reach a facility, there are 3 possible programs that you can be entered into. First, wilderness camps are camps in nature meant to give teens a simple life in the outdoors so they can self-reflect. But in these camps, kids have suffered heat strokes, been deprived of food, sleep, and water, and subjected to extreme labor and physical abuse, as reported by the crime victim law firm. Its counterpart, boot camps, use similar practices. Boot camps were military-like programs designed to help teens by placing them under a strict regimen. Though these boot camps often took strict to the next level, including physical and emotional abuse, and even sexual assault. From the Youth Rights Association, kids have been beaten, strip searched, and forced to use their body fluids. At this point, you're most likely thinking that I'm definitely cherry-picking these abuses from certain misbehaving facilities to make the entire industry look bad. But I promise I'm not, because as Change.org puts it best, this abuse is not just a pattern, it's a policy. Third, therapeutic boarding schools are facilities meant to give these teens a school-like environment while home treatment, including behavioral therapy, drug addiction therapy, mental disorder treatment, and even conversion therapy and therapy targeting children with intellectual disabilities like ADHD or autism. The Harvard Law School also states that such facilities adopt a one-size-fits-all method of treatment that offers no therapeutic benefit, because they're essentially using the same method on such a wide scope of teens. Essentially, there's no legitimate evidence-based medical treatment going on here because being a troubled teen isn't a legitimate medical diagnosis. Simply put, all the operations in TTI are not meant to help these teens. They're for a profit. And for many, they'll have to carry the trauma gained here in the industry for the rest of their lives. But as a blog, 1,000 places you don't want to be as a teenager states, there are also those that never make it home. The blog offers a list of the 300 plus victims of the TTI, with the most recent one in May of 2024. As I looked at the list of names, some stuck out to me the most. There was Aletta Jones, who was a 15-year-old girl who was killed after refusing to undress her male employees on November 16, 2023, in the boarding school youth villages that is still open today. Or Taylor Goodrich, who passed away from a treatable infection that staff called excuseless, despite vomiting for weeks on end, effectively causing her organs to fail. Or 7-year-old Jakeon Terry, who was suffocated to death after being held in a chokehold by 2 fully grown adult staff for over 10 minutes, simply for saying a swear word. And in the future, this list will only get longer and longer because right now, there's essentially nothing to stop it. From the UPenn law review, there are absolutely no federal laws in lottery facilities, and state oversight continues to fall short. However, just because there aren't any federal laws as of now, it doesn't mean people aren't trying. Celebrity and TTI survivor Paris Hilton has been trying to enact the Stop Institutional Teen Use Act and has been the beacon of hope for the hashtag Breaking Code Silence movement. Additionally, in March 2024, Netflix posted a documentary called Program, which exposed abuses that occurred in the facility Ivy Ridge Academy. Overall, the troubled teenager industry has finally reached the national spotlight, providing a voice for the unspoken victims and breaking the silence once and for all. As former teacher Annette wrote, 9 times out of 10, the story behind misbehavior will make you angry. It will break your heart. These so-called troubled teens aren't really troubled. They just need help. And as we saw today, by looking at the troubles of the troubled teenager industry, it's evident that the TTI is not providing them help. Not only that, they convince parents of believing that their kid's behavior needs help in the first place when there's nothing truly wrong with them. We have simply evolved into a society that punishes and abuses kids for being who they are. And instead, we should be accepting, promoting, and embracing their individuality. Because as J. Cole once said, no such thing as a life that's better than yours. Thank you.